Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are absolutely thrilled to be adding another member to the Cavalcade of Happiness this week. We are so thrilled to have with us Bill Guerreau from Magic of the Mouse Radio. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. All the times I listen to you guys every week putting your show up on the station, it's nice to finally put a face with the voice.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. I know every week we tell everybody that our show is there to create joy and share our love for Disney, and certainly very few people are doing that more than you are, because you have a long history of putting out great Disney content for the world to consume, including Magic of the Mouse Radio. So I think a lot of people who've heard us talk about Magic of the Mouse Radio may be very interested to hear how you got started with that, or what your sort of story is behind your sharing your love of Disney with other people.
Now, what story do you want? Do you want the current story or all the way back to 1972?
You are welcome to start wherever you feel is relevant.
Like anybody else, I've been hooked on Disney starting with my first visit in March of 72, which was like 4 months, 5 months, whatever it was after they opened. And it just continued. And then years later, I had a son, and when he was like a year and a half old, he had from then on, he had every Disney movie that was released on VHS. And by the time he was 6, he could recite every movie as he was watching it. That's how a movie nut he was. So as he got older and he went into service, I didn't get a chance to see him a lot. And he's stationed down in Texas at Fort Hood. And I was looking for a way, like, instead of texting him all the time or just talking to him once a week or whatever it was, and he had free time at night, I said, "Do you ever think about a podcast?" I said, "How would you like to do a Disney podcast?" So we started just like you guys are, and that's why I love your podcast, because, same thing. We were father, son, your father, daughter, and it was just a way for me. It started out for me to spend more time with him, even though it was, over the phone, or because we used to patch him in. And that's really how it all started there.
So they had a podcast. What was the podcast called?
Magic of the Mouse.
Oh, Magic of the Mouse. Okay.
Yes, I started it. It was my son, Bill Jr., and my cousin, Tom. And after about the first 1 or 2 episodes, a longtime friend of mine I've known since we were probably in 2nd grade together. He's a Disney nut too, so he started with us. And before we went on the air here, you were talking about your stuff, how you set up your podcast and all like that. I had to put everything in a bag every week and take it to my dad's auto body shop and take over his office and set everything up and then tear it down at the end of the night. And I was in audio hell. I mean, that's how it all started for me.
And when did that podcast? When did you do that podcast? What years was that?
Well, the radios I started that in October of 2000. So it would have been right before the pandemic, like the fall before the pandemic started. So that would have been in 2018, I guess it was. And we only wound up doing about 25 episodes. And my son went on deployment. He got shipped out to Iraq for 9 months. So it was kind of hard to, dial him in for a podcast every week.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So and my cousin Tom moved to Florida. He lives down in Claremont, Florida now. So he retired and moved to Florida. So it became impossible to do it. Okay. Like I said, I was pulling my hair out every week, editing the podcast and with the audio trouble. And I'm sort of a perfectionist. I mean, if I can't do it right, why bother? Mm-hmm. And it was starting to get the best of me. I don't know if you know a friend of mine. He's been on the station a lot. Jeff Dole Whip Dad, and mm-hmm. I became good friends with him. From the Disney community on YouTube and all like that. And I was talking to him one day, and I was ready to throw my laptop out the window. And he's like, "No, calm down."
So you decided to do a radio station. So a lot of people may be wondering, how does one start a radio station online? I mean, I think people would be really curious. How does that happen?
Google is your friend. I just kept Googling everything I could think about it, starting an internet radio station. And I tease everybody. I mean, like, what do you do when you have a podcast where you absolutely think your audio stinks every week and it drives you crazy? What do? You start a radio station. And yeah, I Googled and I, videos online, different people. And it took me a while to the host of the radio station, the website or company that host the feed. It took me. I had a couple that I did in the beginning, and when I first started the station, because we're licensed, and to be able to play copyrighted material, you got to pay royalties. So I had to do run the report every month from the company that was running the feed. They would send me all the information, I don't know, like a printout, and I'd have to put it into a file and send it to the licensing companies, and it was too much, and that's why I wound up with Live 365, because you pay a little bit more, but that's all handled, so I don't have to worry about that. They handle the reporting at the end of the month and the royalties and all like that. So it worked out well. But yeah, the reason I started it, well, like I said, my son was getting shipped out to Iraq for 9 months. He's in a Patriot missile operator with the Army. So he was over there and it wasn't doing the podcast. So I figured, like, what can I do? So that's how the radio station started. And my son, we text back and forth or message back and forth. And he was giving me ideas. I'm like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we did that for about a month or two. And I put it on the air. I think it was October 28th of 2020.
Well, I tell you, we love listening to it when we're in the car, when we're not listening to a podcast, which, sometimes we get tired of listening to podcasts, really.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of walking around sometimes at work. And whenever I do, I have Magic of the Mouse radio on. It's really a great, little station you've built there. And I know you have expanded out recently to do more with the news, and maybe you want to share with our listeners about some of the new things that are coming from Magic of the Mouse Radio.
Well, yeah, with the radio, like when I started it, I had got album after album and put them up, because that's the one thing you're supposed to own the music. So you got to pay for it twice. You got to pay for it to buy it, and then you got to pay for it, with the royalties.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had it all up on my feed, and I had like 30 some hundred tracks, and I had to take them all down because I uploaded them. It clicked one little box wrong, and I had the 1 megahertz or whatever off, and every once in a while you would hear a click in the background. So that got me frustrated. So I took it down for a while, and I reformatted everything and put it back up. And now I got the radio station kind of set to where I want it. I'm up to over 5,000 tracks on there now, and I try to give a lot of there's a couple other Disney stations. They try to mostly play like the background that you would hear if you're in the Disney parks or this. I wanted to be a little different. I got a little bit of everything. I started getting messages all the time. Where's the Disney Channel music? All the stars that have come out of the Disney Channel. So every day from 12 to 1, it's Disney Channel, or 12 to 1:30 Eastern. It's all Disney Channel music. And I'm trying to give everybody a little something. We got fireworks. We got parades, and even I'm finding stuff from the 50s and old Walt recordings and putting them up, and just trying to get a little something for everybody. But now that I got that set, we got that set how we want it, and we're still going to continue to add to it, obviously. But I don't know. I just, for lack of a better word, I got stupid one night and said, "Hey, let's start a Disney News website." And so I've been messing with that for about the last month, and I had a little snafu. I was just telling you beforehand when it started. I was trying to secure the website domain name, and Magic of the Mouse News wasn't available. And luckily, I was able to buy it, but it took me a few weeks. And we started out as WDW News Blog. But if you go online, there's a lot of great Disney news channels online that start out with WDW and then something. So I wanted the Magic of the Mouse News, but I wanted to get it going. So I don't know if that was the right way to do it, but it took me about 2 weeks. I built a website myself from scratch, and I just started with a blank screen, and I still got a lot of work to do on it, but kind of coming around.
Great. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah, we were taking a look at it, before, calling in today, and it looks great. I think it's a great thing. The news websites are, I don't know. I mean, some of them are, I guess the big thing that we see is, I guess more about not just reporting the news from like one place, but sort of looking at the news from various places. I know you have news on from Disney World and Disneyland and so forth, and I think that's really important because we do, our Parks News episodes or segments on the show, and we usually just draw from some headline somewhere. And now that you have that up, I mean, I'm
we have
pretty
a
sure,
more definitive.
Absolutely, I think we're going to be
place to pull
drawing our
from.
headlines from there. But
Put the
usually
pressure
we
on.
Google
it's all
usually
good.
when I Google like Disney news and like scrolling through Google to like pick
Right.
headlines that like sound interesting.
Right. So you currently live in Florida, is that correct?
No, I'm a snowbird.
Oh,
I'm
you're okay.
I'm from New Jersey,
right.
Right outside of Atlantic City, but down in Florida also.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so how do you get the news? I mean, are you getting it from things you're seeing online? Do you have people that are contacting you from down there?
Yeah.
How are you getting that?
My phone, I got news feeds that will notify me if there's like a news story comes up or whatever, some of the feeds, and search. And, I just keep an eye on the Disney site, or like last night, how I wound up getting the thing with the happy news of the night last night was I was working on the website, and I was just looking through like Hollywood Reporters, see if they had any news on any Disney Plus movies or Disney movies that are coming out or anything like that. And when I clicked it on, that was the first thing that popped up, that Uncle Bob Paycheck got shown the door.
I know. We found out about that through Twitter, which is also not a bad place to get news. That is like something that's like really shocking to me. Like Twitter is kind of on its way out, but it was helpful last night with this like Bob's battle thing that's like happening right now.
Well, the first thing is, I saw it from some of the Disney news Twitter feeds, but sometimes those feeds have a reputation
false sense of security,
right? Of sort of the headline is sort of clickbaity. So when I saw it from when
like Vanity Fair
and like, the Hollywood Reporter were reporting this, I was like, okay, this is legit, right? This is a real thing here.
Once I saw that one, and then I saw Yahoo. There were some other ones online, like what news agent? I never heard of that. It's just like if I was the first one to report it, like, who the heck is Magic and the Mouse News? Yeah, we're not going to go by what he says.
Right. Well, you never know, and
it's crazy. Like, obviously, so this episode's coming out this Sunday. So today's the 21st. It's coming out.
Yeah, November 21st, 2022.
It's coming out next Sunday.
No, it's coming out this coming Sunday.
Well, like whatever. So it's like
the 27th.
This Bob thing is probably like old news, and or new developments have been made since then. And those potential developments were really interesting because they threw a whole loop in the case. Anyway.
We'll know more by the end of this week because I'm sure more news will be.
As of right now, though, like I'm really sort of shocked that Bob Iger is back. Like we were talking about this like before we started recording. Like Bob Chapek being gone is not something that I would have put so far out of my mind. Like it was definitely on my 2022 bingo card, but Bob Iger on his way back in really got me. Like that's so he like stepped down, like he retired, he quit. Like he doesn't need any money.
Step down. He was told to leave. He was told you're leaving, and like Iger's taking.
You can either quit or you can be fired. You decide, right?
Like he has already been gone once. Like he's coming back. Like why? Like do you think he's just temporary? Do you think they're gonna like hire someone new?
They want his experience until they can do it. His main goal was going to get the company back on good footing. Financially, because obviously that was one of Chapek's biggest things. I'm sure that showed him the door was the earnings report last week.
Yeah. And
who better to be a fill gap until you get somebody else than Iger? That'd be like again Michael Eisner back. It's no difference. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm sure I have a feeling they're going to go outside of the company for a CEO. But if they promote somebody within, I got my fingers crossed. I got my choice, who I think it should be. And the guy is perfect. I mean, he loves the Disney brand. He loves the Disney cast members. He loves the Disney, people that come to the parks and the Disney fans. And it's Josh D'Amaro.
Yeah.
He's my number one choice. So we'll see what happens.
Josh D'Amaro's a good choice, but especially since he's like younger. But I'd like to see them hire a woman. I don't know, just Disney's only ever hired like these older men.
I think they'll consider because there's a lot of women at
At
high
high
executive
places at
positions.
Disney,
So
yeah. And like
yeah,
I just think like Bob Iger only reportedly has only signed a contract for like 2 years or something. Like it's not very long. So like maybe he's like I think what you're saying is true. Like he's just here to sort of like correct the mistakes of Bob Chapek, fix it up so
He's
he can
just the
like
bridge to get him to the new
right. So you
CEO.
can
That's
hand the
all.
company off to someone
right.
younger who
Right.
is less experienced who can take it and like run with it.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So I know a lot of people online. Again, the news of this of Bob out, Bob in broke on Sunday, November 20th, 2022. Because people may be listening to this episode 4 years from now, right? They won't know what we're talking about. But the news broke Sunday night.
The people will remember the day that Bob replaced Bob.
Well,
okay? Like, let's
possibly,
be so honest.
possibly, right. Yeah. So the news broke last night, and of course, during the course of the day today, things seem to be leaking out. Right? We don't know how accurate these things are, but a lot of things being reported. Like Mimi said, I read online today that Iger agreed to $1 million a year with potential bonuses based on achieving certain goals of another $1 million a year. And like Mimi said, a short, sort of a somewhat short term contract, which sort of, I think would back up what you're saying, Bill, about this is a stopgap to get everything on the right track. Let's get things moving forward. But it doesn't speak very much, if that's the case, to, I would say, in my business and what I do for a living, sometimes you have interim people who come in to run places.
Right.
Interims usually don't set long-term goals and vision for the place, right? They're there to make sure things are right. Yeah. They're making sure things are running well, they're running smoothly, that there is somebody who knows how to make tough decisions and understands the company and moves forward until they find the permanent person. So I don't know, I'm curious what you think, Bill, but a lot of people are talking today about, oh, we hope he changes this, we hope he changes that, we hope he changes this, we hope he changes that. And to be honest with you, other than changing maybe the feeling and the emotion of feeling supported and appreciated, especially the letter he sent to cast members was very directed towards how much he understands how hard it is for them.
Right.
I don't know if any significant changes
I disagree.
are coming.
I have my predictions and they seem like big things, but they're really not. I think he's gonna okay, I wrote this down. It's my notes tab. Okay. I think he's going to not touch the reservation system at all. Like that's not something that's going away.
No.
Which I've been hearing people complain about. I don't think it's going away. But I do think he's gonna fix the pass holder issue, the annual pass holder issue that has been sort of plaguing the Chapek era of Disney. And then I think he's gonna fix the Genie system. I don't think it's going away. I think he's just gonna like modify it so that it's a little bit more user friendly. And I think he's gonna crack down on finishing Tron, like genuinely, like crack down, like finish the ride, get it over with,
it's
open it as soon as possible.
It's all about safety.
Exactly, it is done. And so I think he's gonna open it as soon as possible to bring in that revenue of like, Tron, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah.
I was real quick touching on Tron. Whatever, I believe they set a date for sometime in the spring that's supposed to open, or early summer, was it?
Yeah, it's like March.
I don't think you're going to. Yeah, that's what I thought. You won't see it open before March because they still got finishing touches, and they got to go through, I'm sure, state certification. I don't know if it's federal, any kind of federal, is it the type, being a ride that it is, and they don't want the first day of it, somebody getting hurt on the ride. They're going to go do everything they have to run, thousands and thousands of, loops around that before it opens up. So I can't see that opening before March. But I think the biggest thing that Iger is going to have to work on is the Disney brand, because that was I think I said it before, that's my biggest thing with Chapek. I think he was killing the Disney brand. I don't want to get political and all like that, because I don't care. Every side's got their view, and that's how it should be.
Right.
But I hate when a company forces their view, or what they think their view is, on you. I don't care about that. I'm there because I love the Disney movies. I love the Disney parks. I don't, that's for me and my friends or, whoever to talk about the politics. Disney and any company, I think, needs to stay out of politics.
Right.
Because you're only going to wind up alienating half of your clients. Right. So why would you want to do that? I mean, who cares?
Why would you want to invite controversy into your, like with a company like Disney, all press is good press is not true. Like, because its whole thing is being happy and uplifting and inviting and, family friendly, kid friendly. And like, you can't be kid friendly and be controversial, be political, because like, it's not the right vibe. It's not like,
right. I was very lucky right before the COVID shutdown. I was very lucky to attend a Disney Institute thing. It was a one-day Disney Institute piece on leadership. And one of the things I remember them saying was that Disney as a company, they create happiness. That's their sort of their charge. We create happiness. And I think what you're saying, Bill, and I agree with you, is I rarely read or heard a Chapek interview or announcement and felt that announcement in any way, shape, or form created any additional happiness. That it was very businesslike and very, we gotta raise prices, or we gotta stop selling these passes,
and there is a place for that, just not at like the front man.
Well, I think what Iger is skilled at is, he doesn't hurt the company from a business standpoint. He improved the company from a business standpoint, but he can run the business, and he's very adept at maintaining sort of the image, like you were saying, the brand of the company, which is approachable, happy, joyful, and quite frankly, one that honors the history of the company. And I think, we will only know a very small percentage of everything that went on behind the scenes during all of this, turnover. But no one doubts Bob Iger's, sincerity. Well, at least he projects a great deal of sincerity about how much he cares for this company. And I think people just sort of, even though, look, Chapek was there a long time. He had big jobs in that company, and you're like, I guess that's what's so befuddling is, how can a guy who was in charge not project a spirit of joy and happiness and approachability? Like you mentioned, DeMauro, that's his superpower. I'm not convinced that he, behind the scenes isn't, a little bit, is a different guy. But when he's out in the public,
it doesn't matter.
It's clear.
Yeah.
When he's in the public, he's very political, and Bob Iger is very political. And I guess that's what killed Chapek, is in the not talk about politics in the sense of politics, but in the sense of building a coalition of people who are in support of you and what you're trying to do. Right. And there were circumstances that Chapek had to face, but at the same time, I think at the end of the day, the customer never felt that they were the most important piece to the Disney puzzle during Chapek's time.
I think Chapek is probably a great CEO. He's not a CEO for Disney. Put him in any other company, he's definitely, stockholders would probably more than likely love him. Board of directors would love him. Yeah. But at Disney, he just didn't get. He didn't get that. I don't know the word for it. The thing that Walt built is, I guess, the best way to put it. A lot of people go back to Michael Eisner. He put out and did a lot of projects, and some project that Disney fans of the Disney parks or the movies that they didn't like. It was like projects, but he got the Disney brand. There is no doubt about that. Michael Eisner got this Disney brand, and he built it up. But I think one of the biggest downfalls probably for Chapek, and this part probably wasn't any fault of his own, was the acquisition of Fox. It cost Disney like $72 or $73 billion, and not too long after that closed, what happened?
Right.
All of Disney's income shut down because of COVID. Right. Now you just took over this big company, spent almost $100 billion, $100 billion or whatever it was. And now, they're losing income left and right, even though they just came off right before COVID after what I think it was the biggest movie year in their history. They had 2 or 3 movies that grossed over $6 billion or something like it was an insane year for the movies before COVID. But it's not just one thing, but to me, it like I said, it's just he didn't get the brand. He was more for the dollar signs, which is CEO, that's his job.
Right. But whether it's Iger or whoever comes after Iger, something I was seeing about today, I was actually on a chat with in a Disney chat with somebody, and I put in there this equation, value is your experiences divided by the price. And the price has gone up, and the price has gone up, and the price has gone up. And look, I'm not. I'm sure there's a figure where people would stop buying tickets, but it's not going to be $200 a day, and it's not going to be $250. People will find a way to do it, and the reason is, you want your kids to be happy, and parents will do almost anything to keep their kids happy, and they want to go to Disney, and they will go into debt, whether it's a good decision or not. People will go into debt to visit the parks, and that's not Disney's fault, but the price has gone up. But the experience side of that equation has not. The user experience at Disney parks has been, I think, diminished.
Not diminished. It's just stagnant. It hasn't changed at all in a while. Like, nothing really new has come.
Well, I say diminished in the sense that it's very difficult. It's not easy to go to the parks if you got to get Genie Plus, and you got to get a Lightning Lane. You got to get a reservation for this, and and again, I get it. That's the way it is. That's the game. You don't have to buy Genie Plus. We went in July. We never bought a single day of Genie Plus.
And we did everything.
I made a mistake. I spent the money and bought Genie Plus the last time I went down at the end of September or October, and to get on one ride, and I like a dumb guy, I bought it 2 days in a row, and the second day, one ride. Right. So I haven't, because I'm technically a Florida resident because I'm there over half the year. So I have a Florida resident annual pass. But if I was spending 100 and whatever it is now, 79 or whatever for a day, and for another $15, you get the privilege of actually riding a ride. I mean, right. It should
plus
be built into the ticket
plus
price.
Potential hotel fees, plus water, which you need. And it adds up in an unfair way that creates an environment that can be very, I don't want to say elitist, but very if you have it, you have it, and if you don't, you don't. And I don't think that that's the kind of thing that Disney wanted to create ever. And it doesn't even seem like you can't do Disney cheap anymore, right. And that doesn't seem fair. And then also on top of that, so first of all, that's the price issue, but it also diminishes that experience that you've been talking about. If you can't do it comfortably without going into debt, you're not going to have a good time. You're just going to be worried about all the debt you're going to be in because you had to buy a water before you passed out on Main Street in 102 degree heat.
Exactly.
It's not user friendly anymore. And the park itself is wonderful, but guest relations have gone down. Genie is frustrating. The app is frustrating. Magic Bands don't work. Magic Bands don't even exist in California. Annual pass holders are being screwed left and right.
Well, they have Magic Bands in California now.
Everything that is frustrating is just heightened, and it's just it doesn't work for families of small kids.
One thing I want to touch on real quick, Troy. Before one thing you said, I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think right now the parks are massively crowded, because it's still the lingering COVID effect. People were cooped up for so long, and they want to go. But now that the prices are going up, and there's another big option being built, about 8 miles east of Disney World, that's going to be open, I believe, in 25 or whatever it is. The average person, I mean, I only have one son. I can't imagine having 3 or 4 kids and taking, myself, my wife, and 3 or 4 kids to Disney for a week. I mean, the average, person, making under a certain amount, and that's the part I think that stinks. It's like she said, it shouldn't be an elitist park. It should be a park for everybody.
No, I agree with you, and I think circling back to what I was to say before, whether it's Iger or whomever, I think from a parks perspective, and really from the entertainment perspective, focusing on the experience. I mean, I'd mentioned today, where's the original content? Yeah, Strange World's coming out. You wrote that piece about Strange World. It's original content, a couple of things. But I think there's some low-hanging fruit that in the next few years, if Disney could commit to doing a few things that would make people, I think, start to feel better. And it's not going to, I don't think it hurts their bottom line. So it's things like at the parks, okay, reservation system. I get it. It's not going anywhere. Genie Plus, it's not going anywhere. But they'll improve Genie Plus over time. And
sure.
it'll continue to get better. They'll tweak it.
They had the same thing when the Magic Bands first came out.
Everybody hated the Magic Band.
They had major trouble.
I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking about Genie Plus, and I was like, Genie Plus was like awful. And then I was like, wait, but remember when everyone hated Magic Bands because they were also awful and didn't connect to your tickets right and like didn't work? Right. Like it does improve with time. It's just like now we have Iger to do it and not Shane.
Magic Bands weren't built for us. The Magic Bands, they weren't created for us. They were created Disney. That was a way to track their customers throughout the park and where the park was busiest at certain times of day. And another thing that was built in, they can find out where a certain Magic Band is any time of the day. If a little kid gets separated from his parents and has a Magic Band on, they can locate that kid anywhere in the park or on the property. And it was built for a lot of things, but it wasn't built for us.
And there's like I said, there's low hanging fruit. When we were at the parks in July, and I don't know what it's like today, but one of the things I remember mentioning to Mimi on our trip was it was dirty. I mean, it was not clean. And I was like, you would the ability to not have overflowing trash cans in the ride queues and it was just those things that made Disney different that are they're very low hanging fruit things like the park hopper. Let people park hop before 2 p.m.
Literally, what is that about? Like, why?
But if you buy a single day ticket, you pay what? What is the price now to add the park hopper on? But now you can't use it the whole day. You can only use it after 2 o'clock.
Only use it after 2 o'clock, and it's so dumb because it's like, what if I'm going to go get lunch in Epcot?
Yeah, you got the monorail. You're over there in 10 minutes. You're right. But the one thing you just said, I say to people all the time, and they look at me like I'm crazy. The one thing that stood out with me the most, and I was 10 years old at the time in 72 when I went. Back then, obviously, you could smoke in the parks and whatever. If a piece of trash, if somebody threw a cigarette butt on the ground or a piece of trash hit the ground, that thing didn't stop fluttering to settle on the ground before a Disney cast member was there sweeping it up. It was gone like that. I mean, you could have anywhere in that park, you could have went down and you could have ate your lunch off the park, off the ground anywhere. That's how spotless it was. And every time I go back, that's the first thing with me. Like this isn't even clean anymore. Like you'll see the pavement. Disney, like a lot of their walkways are always painted. Some of them look like they haven't been painted for years. Mm-hmm. And there's
a lot of neglect that seems to be filtering in, and whether it's a shortage of employees or a lack of investment and whatever, but these are the small things that I think if you're paying more, it improves the experience side. So it's like, okay, I paid this amount and the garbage cans were overflowing and I paid for Genie Plus and I still waited an hour in line to get on that attraction or whatever. So to me, I think if I was running, I never will. It's the prices. You've already got a plan for your prices. You already know. I mean, the Disney Plus prices are set for the next year or so. The plans are set. The park ticket programs are set. All that's set. You don't have to do much with prices, but it's look at the experience side at the parks. Can you commit to one new attraction that is new? Like Tron's not new. It's the same attraction they have overseas. They just put it in Florida, right? Yeah, but something that's really new and exciting that you can commit to and say, hey, we have a deadline of this, right? So, give one big announcement, clean the parks, do something with your park hopper, fix, a little bit of the tweaking of the Genie Plus and the reservation system. If you do that, I think the parks part will take care of itself. Right, that part. Yeah. Then you look at the entertainment side, and the thing I said again in this chat this morning is you got to stop, in my opinion, stop giving me the same meal over and over again. I don't need another remake of a film that you've already made, right?
That's all movies, not just Disney anymore.
But it's like, give me something original.
I don't need Avatar 2. Like I don't need Avatar 3, 4, 5, and 6 that are apparently also coming out. Like I need a new, like Elemental, that trailer dropped today. I'm so excited for that movie.
Right, that's original content. Which one was that?
Elemental.
Oh, okay. Elemental, yeah. So they need to commit to more of that, I think. And even if it's in short form on Disney Plus, which is a great medium for them. But I think they're just going through this cycle, and I think they've reached a point where I think you're right, Bill. It all comes back to, I think, what you said earlier, which is, focusing on the brand. Who are we at our core? And let's get back to being that company.
And I think the way to do that is honestly like with like more attention to your cast members, like tying into like the specifically park part and the park being dirty, like all of that was really frustrating, and all of that really began with like the mass excursion of cast members at the beginning of COVID, and the lack of morale and the lack of payroll coming into these cast members, that like, and the lack of training and the lack of just sort of excitement to be at Disney anymore has just sort of faded. And like, that reflects with your audience. Like you can tell when a cast member doesn't want to be there. We experienced it multiple times on our trip. Like, but you also know when a cast member is really happy to be there. And we've also experienced that. And it's about really, really narrowing in on those people that want to be there and making them like the face of the park, making them the ones that stand out, and as opposed to like, I don't know. I really think cast members are like the core of the Disney park.
You got to invest. You got to invest in your frontline employees, or because they're the ones that are going to be interfacing with the public. And
if
that's
your
where
guest relations cast member is rude to you, that customer is going to be pissed off their entire trip. Period. Like that's just how it's going to be.
Rude to me, but here's another stupid thing. Like I said, the trash. It's something I pick up on. But this last trip I was at, and it was the first time I ever had it happen, and it happened to me 3 times on this trip. You ever like are in a gift shop or anywhere in Disney, and you ask them a question, they're not supposed to tell you, I don't know. They're like, can you hang on a second? Let me find out for you if I don't know. I mean, I was looking for something to buy my one granddaughter, and it was like, oh, I don't know. And she just left it at that. I'm like, okay, are you going to find out? It's like, I mean, that was one of Walt's biggest things. You never tell a customer, I don't know.
Right.
Their thing was, I will find you the information. And
you have to heal from the inside out.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, if I'm wrong, I heard that now Disney's cast member numbers are higher than before COVID. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that. That's interesting.
They're taking more college program people.
Well,
that's what
I think that's where a lot of the executives, a lot of them started in the Disney college program.
They expanded the college program. The actual like official hired cast member is relatively the same. But they have, like, I was looking at a bunch of people that I see on TikTok, like every single one of them was accepted to the program, and that program used to be like really like difficult to get into. And then when I see a bunch of like 100 people like get in, it makes, you know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe the only ones that are getting in are doing.
Well, I think that has to do with it because it was shut down for a couple of years, and now they're rather than taking it
more accessible. Yeah, I think that's what that cast member thing is. But like either way, like cool, like I'm fine with that. Like,
you hire who you have to hire, and you have to train them well. And I don't know. I'm assuming they're going through the same traditions program and training program that they always have. But I mean, you're right. Look, you're always going to get. Look, everything's not perfect, and when you're younger, you don't notice a lot of things you notice when you're older. Like I told Mimi on our last trip, I'm 50 years old, so there are things I notice that when I was 17, I would have never noticed, right? Yeah. Because I just see the world differently, right, than I do now, right? And that's okay. But I think when it's all said and done, rediscovering that joy, that happiness, when you're there, being immersed in an environment where you can be a kid again is really important. And I think with this news that came out yesterday that Iger is returning, I think that's what we're going to see, Bill, to circle back to what you said before. I think the big thing, the big change that is going to come more than anything is sort of the refocusing on promoting the brand as the brand that creates happiness, not the brand that creates
money,
right, creates cash flow or whatever. You got to do it, but don't talk about it, right? That's not what you should be saying more often. It's kind of like, it was the old saying, for every one bad thing you say, you got to say 20 things to that person to help them get over it, right? 20 good things.
Yep.
You got to say certain things, but you got to balance it. And I think the balance was what was missing.
I wish they would go back to building more Disney IP. I mean, I love Star Wars. I always look forward to the next Marvel movie coming out. But to me, Disney owns them. They're not Disney to me. I mean, as much as I love them, they're not Disney. Like Frozen and all the movies, they need to get more into their own IP and add to that.
I agree. And hopefully we'll see some of that coming out really soon.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that in like Hong Kong, Tokyo for sure.
Yes.
Because they're adding a bunch of like really niche dark rides. Like I know Rapunzel's getting one in Tokyo. I know Tinkerbell's getting one in Hong Kong. The Zootopia Land is opening.
Yeah.
Like they're expanding that, just not in America. And it's like, come on, guys.
Well, look, Frozen was one of the most popular Disney animated of all time, right?
It's it's one of the most popular movies of all time.
And then how did they put it? They put it in Maelstrom in Epcot and just rethemed it with a couple Frozen animatronics or whatever throughout there. Why doesn't that have its own?
Well, those are the things that happen when you gut Imagineering too.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Imagineering has been gutted.
Or why don't you see Elsa?
And that's what built Disney.
In the park.
Yep, you're right.
Little girls, when I was a kid and I saw a little Minnie Mouse and I ran towards her, literally like highlight of my parents' life. Little girls need to be running towards Elsa. Like, why don't we see Elsa more? Like, it's like exactly what you're saying. It's like not capitalizing on what's popular and just sort of developing things that are gonna always give you success.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, Bill, I want to respect our time, and it's. I know we're all excited for the change that came down yesterday, but I also want to give you a chance before we wrap things up to share with everybody how they can find all the great stuff you're doing at Magic and the Mouse Radio out there in the internet.
Yeah, well, thanks. Well, I could talk Disney all night, and I know Mimi's got to go to school in the morning, so we'll kind of wrap it up here a little bit. Magic of the Mouse Radio. You can find us on a bunch of different apps. Easiest way is to go to our website, magicofthemouseradio.com, and click on our How to Listen page, and you can either listen right from the website, or there's plenty of apps you can download to listen to us on. Through a couple of those apps like Get Me Radio, and a couple of them you can listen to us on a Roku device, and a lot of different places that you can listen to us there. And the new news channel is it's now magicofthemousenews.com. Anybody out there that saw us originally post it, the WDW News blog, if you type in that, it'll just send you over to magicofthemousenews.com now. And I know you announced it a little bit on your Instagram last week, but we got a new writer that's going to write for us a little bit on probably both websites. And when we get off here, I want to talk to Mimi and you for a minute on that. But she posted her first.
I'm so excited to be on that. I really am. I got to school, like Papa told me about that, and the next morning I got to school, and I was like, hey, creative writing teacher, and they were like, what do you want? And I was like, guess what? And they were like, okay.
That's good stuff. Good stuff.
Hemingway's getting her start.
That's right. That's right. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We love Magic and Mouse Radio, and we hope that our listeners check it out, guys. Magic and Mouse Radio, like we say every week, 24/7, 365, all the Disney greatness you ever want to hear in an audio format is there available for you. All right, Bill.
Listen to you guys every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 9 a.m. on Magic of the Mouse Radio.
That's right. God willing, we'll be there for quite some time, so it'll be great. It'll be great. Bill, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir.
No problem. Nice meeting you guys in person.
You got it, my friend. Thank you.